Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and Kevin O'Leary completely humiliates this obnoxious Democrat live on TV because she wouldn't stop with these weird questions that make absolutely no economic or historical sense. But this is CNN after all. Let's dive in.
I don't really understand why he keeps going back to this well of more and more and more tariffs.
Let me explain why. Let's take China. Let's take an example that every American understands, TikTok. Everybody knows TikTok. American people made a decision in Congress to ban it on midnight, Jan 19th. The supreme leader of China said, no, we're going to use your court systems to litigate the American people so that doesn't happen. I can't do that in China. The supreme leader would never let me do that. I can't protect my IP there. Chinese have been screwing my 45 businesses for 35 years. I like the idea of going to war with China with tariffs to change behavior.
But it didn't change behavior. All it did was hurt American companies.
Weak leadership that doesn't know how to implement.
This is the same leadership. It was
No,
Trump who
it
launched
started
the
with
trade
Biden,
war with.
then it was Clinton saying, let's democratize China, let's show them democracy, and they'll play fair in the WTO.
But to Catherine's point,
it's time to raise tariffs at China to 400%.
Hang on a second.
Trump already raised tariffs on China.
Not enough.
There have been many studies showing that U.S. companies and consumers are the ones who bore the cost.
Academic study. I'm doing real business in China. I'm actually doing business there.
Yeah.
I'm actually working
American
there. There's no academics in my
Where
companies.
do you think they buy their inputs from?
Let me explain something to you.
From China.
The Chinese
It
steal
hurts
my
American
IP. They make the same product with the molds that I pay for there. They ship them into this country under a different brand. I don't like it anymore, and I've been trying to solve this for 30 years.
If you tariff everything from China at
there's no
60%,
academic in my world.
You're going to be
doing business
paying
in
more
America.
for the stuff you buy. You're going to be paying more for the stuff you buy. They knew even in the 1600s that you should not tariff inputs.
Kevin, let's
just take a yoga mat.
Every American.
Kevin, 400% tariff on a yoga mat. We'll make it in Vietnam or make it in India or make it in America. We won't buy anything from China. And the
it will
Supreme
still
leader
be more
will come,
expensive.
He'll come to New
It will
York.
be more expensive.
No.
Absolutely it would be.
We won't buy it from there.
Wait,
what do you mean we won't buy it from there?
Hold on one second, because I get the
Why
back
are you
and
raising
forth,
the price?
But Kevin, you're having a different. This is always what happens when we talk about Trump and the economy. People come on here.
Trump.
Hang on. No. Just hang on. People come on the show. And then they defend a different economic policy than the one that Trump is advocating. He says in the clip, what am I going to do, negotiate with China or Mexico? He doesn't want to negotiate. He says you're not going to get anything from them. Okay, that's what he says. He does not want to negotiate. Also, the question I asked you is, where is the rest of the plan? Where is the rest of the economic plan?
Well, why don't you just look at his track record for the last, the term that he had? No inflation, fantastic wage growth. I mean, look, he actually sat in the seat at the White House.
2020.
You may not like what he did.
President
you may not like
Trump
him,
was president in 2020.
But I don't remember 9% inflation when he was
I remember 18% unemployment. I mean, I remember...
What happened when that was going on?
A pandemic that he bungled.
Are you saying he created the virus?
No, but he absolutely made it worse.
How?
By lying about the risk, by telling people not to get tested. Don't get tested.
You're saying he should have personally cured the virus as the president?
No, I'm saying he should have given his tests to Americans rather than to
She did not say that. I mean, but Scott, okay.
I'm sorry. This idea that somehow because Trump was the president that the virus has political proclivities and decided to prolong itself has been crazy to me since it's been floated.
You don't think leadership mattered at all?
To the virus? No, I don't actually.
You don't?
I don't believe the virus.
You don't think it matters?
Politicians.
You don't.
You have two of the more intelligent people on CNN reminding people of the economic responsibilities of the president, not to mention the responsibility to the health of the American people. And this Democrat is out here just screaming for no good reason. And so now we need to talk back about the tariffs. We need to talk about those sort of issues. So let me pull this up from the Associated Press, even though I hate using them as a source. The president is abandoning the free trade policy that the United States pursued for decades after World War II. He argues that open trade costs America millions of factory jobs and tariffs are the path to national prosperity. He rejects the views of the mainstream economists who contend that such protectionism is costly and inefficient. Okay, let's do a brief history lesson before I go on here. Remember how we actually used to get our tax money before we passed the income tax in 1913? Yeah, we used to get it from tariffs. Arguably, the American system, which was devised by Henry Clay, someone who wasn't on the East Coast, by the way, someone who basically looked at America and said, we can be an economic powerhouse on a global scale. So what did he do? He imposed massive tariffs to protect fledgling American companies. He then used that money to invest in American infrastructure, and then basically the system just fed itself for a while. There was one drawback, of course. It screwed over the southern states. If you want to know why we jokingly call it down here the War of Northern Aggression, that's because the 1918 tariff Henry Clay pushed through ultimately screwed over the southern plantation owners who would need to pay exorbitant prices for equipment in order to make the plantations tolerable. So again, that's a longer topic for a longer day, but we've used tariffs before and they worked. From 1920 forward, America leapt forward on the world stage, and then after the war between the states, we kept those tariffs, and we kept we argued about the gold standard versus the silver standard, and we then got an even stronger economy. We became the world powerhouse essentially by 1918, again, after a mere 60 years after the war between the states. We were ultimately one of the strongest, if not the strongest country on the world stage. And then after World War II, and then, by the way, I'm forgetting something in the middle here. After the Great Depression truly began with the stock market crash, we passed something called the Smoot-Hawley tariff. It did not work at all because it upended the way the entire world economic system worked at the time. And because it upended the system, it made the Great Depression worse here in the United States. And then enter World War II when we didn't need any protectionism anymore because we were the only economy left standing that wasn't communistic. Naturally, the United States benefited from that, and we benefited for 30 years. And then there was the malaise of the 70s, and then we opened up the markets again in the 80s, but now we are in a new paradigm. We are no longer fighting a Cold War. We are no longer in World War II. We are back to that issue of protectionism, which the rest of the world uses against us on a consistent basis. And let me go back to the story. Import taxes are a very powerful weapon that politicians haven't used because they were either dishonest, stupid, or paid off in some other form, Trump said Monday. And now we're using them. It's time to use this economic model again, at the very least to see what kind of things we can get out there and what other concessions we can make, or to see if this will actually strengthen the economy. Because this is better than raising taxes, which will have a direct harm upon the American citizenry, or we can do tariffs, which might have an indirect harm, but more potential benefits. I'm sorry, of the two, I'm picking the tariffs. We are in a terrible deficit with our spending. We are in a terrible place with our debt. We are also in a bad place when it comes to our trade deficits. These things need to change for America to keep moving forward. And instead of that, you have some panelists out here who are screaming that, oh, this is going to make everything worse. Well, we've tried this in small amounts, and it's been sort of tit for tat with China, but it's gotten us concessions with both Canada and Mexico. So now that the tariffs are now officially in place, we're in a point where we really just need to sit back and see what happens. Because I would much rather take this gamble than the gamble of higher taxes in order to pay off our debt. That's the issue that we are now dealing with. And so Kevin O'Leary is tired of the Chinese picking our pockets. And then Scott Jennings is over here. I finally remembered his name. I'm sorry, I had a brain fart there. And Scott Jennings is having to remind the entire panel there that ultimately they don't really know what they're talking about. They're smart enough to know that tariffs traditionally aren't that great, but we are in a new paradigm. It's time to see what happens, and hopefully these tariffs will work out in the way just like they did under the first Trump administration. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politbrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. And until then, y'all have a good one.